next time. I hope you're out next time.
What a panel, full of experience and charm. Big show coming up, but first, your news headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Ben, thank you. It's just gone 9 o'clock. Your top story from the GB newsroom. Tributes have been paid to 9-year-old Andre Gleisner, who was killed in the German Christmas market attack on Friday evening. In a tribute on social media, his mother, Desiree Gleisner, called him "my little teddy bear" and said, "will always live in our hearts." The attack left 5 people dead and over 200 injured after a driver used an emergency vehicle lane to plough into the Christmas market in Magdeburg. German authorities are coming under fire after warnings about the suspect were reportedly received but deemed unspecific. Chancellor Olaf Scholz and ministers faced angry hecklers during a visit to the site as questions mount over security and how the attack could happen. Social media giant X, owned by Elon Musk, is also being scrutinised for failing to act on the suspect's threatening posts before the attack. Security has been ramped up across Germany and the rest of Europe, with armed police patrolling festive events and Christmas markets. In other news, Yvette Cooper has been attacked by an angry voter who branded her two-faced for handing out mince pies while pensioners are freezing to death.
That is so two-faced, getting a mince pie out.
Yeah. It's a nice tradition.
No. Give them a blanket, because they're freezing to death. It's freezing about.
The Home Secretary was told she would be better off donating blankets to elderly people while dishing out the treats during a visit to West Yorkshire. In the confrontation captured on camera and shared on social media, the voter tells Miss Cooper she should heat the mince pies up to keep freezing pensioners warm after Labour cut their winter fuel payments. Household shopping bills are set to rise by up to £1.4 billion a year under a new grocery tax aimed at meeting the UK's net zero targets. The levy will charge businesses based on packaging materials, with costs largely passed to consumers, adding as much as £56 to annual bills. Critics warn the scheme, rolling out in 2025, will fuel inflation and impose red tape while councils pocket the funds without lowering taxes. Supporters argue it's a vital step toward cutting waste and boosting recycling, with the government promising 21,000 jobs in the sector. And strong winds are continuing causing travel chaos in parts of the UK as millions of people travel ahead of Christmas. The AA predicts 21.3 million drivers will have hit the road today, capping off a weekend of record-breaking traffic. Yellow weather warnings for gales are in place, adding to the strain, grounding 100 flights at Heathrow and stopping a number of P&O ferry services. The Met Office is warning of continued disruption and even power cuts into tonight. Meanwhile, emergency services have rushed to Belfast City Airport this evening after a plane crash-landed onto the runway. It's as Britain continues to be battered by 82-mile-per-hour winds. The airport's runway was closed this afternoon after the Aer Lingus plane suffered an emergency incident while performing a hard landing during the stormy weather. No one was believed to have been seriously hurt. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Ben.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to news alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening, hope you're well. Thanks for your company tonight. I wanted to share with you the picture of the 9-year-old boy brutally killed at the German Christmas market on Friday by, quite frankly, a nutter from the Middle East who shouldn't have even been in Germany. This is Andre Gleisner. He was one of at least 5 people who died, while more than 200 others were injured when the man's car ploughed into crowds in Magdeburg on Friday evening. His mother, Desiree Gleisner, said in a post on Facebook, "Let my little teddy bear fly around the world again. Andre didn't do anything to anyone. He was only with us on Earth for 9 years. Why you? Why? I don't understand. Now you're with Grandma and Grandpa in heaven. They missed you very much, as we miss you here now. You will always live on in our hearts, I promise you that." One of the mother's work colleagues wrote on the page that Andre was so looking forward to Christmas but will never be able to unwrap his presents. She added, with his cheerful smile and his zest for life, Andre leaves a big gap in the hearts of his family, friends and all those who knew him. So, behind the headlines, the debates, the numbers, the conjecture, little boys like Andre are the human story behind the debate surrounding uncontrolled mass migration. I wish his family well. Let's get the thoughts of my panel tonight. Conservative peer and former advisor to Boris Johnson, Lord Colville Ranger, head of comms at Popular Conservatism, Annunziata Rees-Mogg, and the former Labour Special Advisor, Paul Richards. Good morning to you all. Merry Christmas. Very happy to see you all.
Hello.
Panel.
Hi, Ben.
Sorry to start the show on such a sombre note, but I just wanted to convey, as I said, the human story behind this massive debate on migration, illegal migration, uncontrolled mass legal migration. Your thoughts, Colville Ranger, on this poor little boy and what should happen now in terms of the West's response to the migration problem?
Well, firstly, on Andre Gleiser, you know, as a father of two young boys, it does, you know, viscerally upset you when you hear these stories. And I know everybody gets upset, but when you've got your own young children, you can directly relate to what that family must be feeling right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's very challenging. I know you've got young children as well.
To be honest, I nearly lost it just then, but thankfully...
It's hard. And then we have to step back and go, right, what can we do here? Obviously, we have to take this tragedy and work out what's gone on in this issue. But Germany has its own problems, like a lot of European countries have had, with the numbers of migrants coming in and how the integration into a very mature society, an accepting society. We have to accept the Germans are a very accepting society in the modern era. But what is it? What's the right kind of way of getting people that will move into a country to acclimatise and be part of that country? Now, we don't know, and I don't think we understand yet, what was the motivation behind the individual, this doctor, who has done this heinous act. You know, we know there can be mental health issues, there can be all kinds of issues, but we do need to understand, is this about a lack of integration? Although he'd been there, I think, 20 years as a doctor. Yeah. So it might be a more complex issue, but it's undoubted that there is a challenge for all European countries on the levels of migration coming in, and how do we get a better way of handling that?
And Annunziata, does it matter really what his motives or intentions were, whether he was pro-Islam, anti-Islam, whether he liked Elon Musk or not? The guy shouldn't have been there in the first place, to be quite honest. Saudi Arabia wanted to have him extradited, which Germany said no to.
Oh, and that was his defence of why he should be allowed to stay, was that he had upset the Saudis. I just think on the human level, this the mothers, why my son, is just so relatable to, and we would all be asking. And I don't think any of us have the answers. That was he a nutter? Was he a fundamentalist? In either direction, we don't know. We do know that it looks like the authorities have massively failed, that the Saudis reported him, but also the anti-Islamist community within Germany had supposedly reported him, saying that he was feeling that the Germans were being unjust to his cause, not to Islam.
Do you believe all this conjecture online about being anti-Islam?
I think there are so many conflicting stories. We just don't know the answer. But it fundamentally doesn't matter. We don't really know anything about this man at all. And the problem is the authorities didn't, and they didn't take the threat seriously. Well,
I guess we do know he's an evil piece of work. Paul Richards, what does this say about the UK and our small boats crisis? Slightly different scenario. This guy, of course, went as an asylum seeker to Germany many years ago. He's been there for a long time, and up until this point was, you know, a fairly normal guy, I guess. But the small boats crisis in the UK, tens of thousands of people each year. We don't know who they are, their criminal background, where they're from, what their intentions are. Are we right to be concerned about the safety of Brits in the UK?
Well, I think the first thing is just how heartbreaking this is, and I think it really is. It's almost worse because it's Christmas and because it's a little lad, you know, and all of the commentary around the fact his presents remain unopened and all of that. So, you know, we have to get past that that immediate feeling of grief, really, even though we didn't know the family. I'm not sure how helpful it is then is to segue straight from that into a debate on migration, because we don't know what this guy... You said he was a nutter. I think that's probably right. I suspect it's not political, and I suspect it's not religious. I suspect that he's just a deeply damaged,
he shouldn't have been in Germany.
deranged
agree with that.
person. I don't think it's a product of, their migration policy. I think it's a product of his deranged mind.
I think we do have to acknowledge that not all killers, not all murderers are mad, that there are people who are just evil. And that is what the police are up against day in, day out. Terrorists and evildoers of any description only have to get, as the phrase goes, lucky once to destroy hundreds of lives.
But this is not a political thing, is it? I don't think it is. Well, that's true. And I mean, what I would say is that we do need the German legal system to kick in here and to actually put this guy on trial and to find out what the truth of it is.
My point is, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but this is just my opinion. I don't think it matters what his intentions were, or, as I said, I'll keep saying it again, whether he was pro-Islam, anti-Islam. The guy shouldn't have been in Germany. He was due to be extradited to Saudi Arabia on, I believe, rape charges. And the German politicians, as far as I'm concerned, have let down the German people, but not least by ignoring intelligence warnings from the Saudis about him.
Ben, I will say you're right, because in one way, it doesn't matter, whether... I don't like the phrase nutter, but, what's the issue with the individual himself? But there is an issue of German immigration policy, and the German people will respond and react to that issue. They will be wondering whether there are other people who are falling through this net, who shouldn't be there, and how are they handling the situation. They will ask questions of their politicians about how secure their country is, like every country does, about the kind of people...
If you accept Annunziata's point that evil exists, though, which is, the point you were making, it doesn't matter whether they're here under a visa or not, or whether they're an immigrant or not. And if evil exists, then it exists in people's souls who are resident or not.
To Ben's point, under exactly the same problem as we are suffering from, is that we decide people shouldn't remain here and we don't remove them. There was the case written about much last week about the man who had been, first of all, denied asylum in 1988. He had ended up in prison for heroin dealing of some form or other.
The Turkish guy?
Yeah, exactly.
Keir Starmer was here. He would say his record numbers have gone back.
He's still here, and now he's claiming human rights to a family life. Well, he's been here since 88. Of course he's made a family life in that time. And he's been back, though his life's so under threat, to Turkey 8 times.
Yeah, he went back to Turkey to have an affair with a woman.
Yes.
So he'd been back and forth 8 times.
Absolutely.
And he's still in the UK.
But the problem is our legal systems here and in Germany don't let us remove these dangerous people.
And the worry then comes back to your point, which is, and it's a public perception point, which is concerning, is if we've got a high level of illegal immigration coming in, which we have no understanding of what's happening, and then that leads us to feel even more vulnerable to those people. And that's why Ben's making that link, and I think it is quite right that we look at this in the round. It's unfortunate that this kind of incident with the tragic death of, a young child highlights it, but it does make people worry and ask the questions about
Ben
immigration.
used the point conjecture earlier, and I think that's the right word to use. It is conjecture. We just don't know, and social media does not help in this situation.
You mentioned Keir Starmer has deported how many? What is it, 10,000?
Yeah, well, more than, for many years, I believe, is the... that's the metric that's been put out there.
Still fewer than have arrived.
Exactly. That was about to come on to that.
But we're making a start. We're making a start.
Yeah, OK. All right. Panel, thank you very much. Appreciate your contributions tonight. Again, I reiterate, I'm very glad to have you on board. Up next, will Keir Starmer be the Prime Minister this time next year? I'm not sure if you guys saw this today in the Mail on Sunday. Top columnist Dan Hodges reckons Labour grandees are predicting this will be his first and last Christmas in Downing Street. James Price and Peter Edwards go head-to-head on that next. This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. Well, drinkers have been warned about a drop in the quality of French wines after poor weather conditions hit this year's grape harvest. Winemakers across France will make 240 million fewer bottles of wine this year. the country's farming ministry said on Tuesday. So should we think of switching from French to English? I'm joined now by sommelier and founder of Inflorescence Wines, Jacinta Madison Williams. Hello, Jacinta.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. First of all, let's just think about the poor French.
We should.
Has this been a fairly universal weather catastrophe for France?
It has. A kind of across the board, we're about 22% down on last year's crops, which is quite significant. I think it's like one of the 4 years over the last century that have been this low. So,
and it's affected both quality and quantity?
I would say more so quantity. There's always ways of counteracting quality. It depends if people are desperate to make wine. They can obviously push out more watered down grapes. There's been a lot of rain, if you hadn't noticed. Not only in France, we felt it here too. But lots of frost, supercell hailstorms have completely wiped out some crops. So in some cases, there's nothing to make. In other cases, it's just really watered down grapes and you want to pick earlier to make sure you're avoiding all those rains. But I would say more so it's quantity. But saying that, France is still the biggest producer of wine in the world. It might be taken over by Spain this year, but as a consumer, don't panic. We're not going to run out of wine. And we obviously have lots of lovely wine growing here now in England. So whether we do make a little jump for a bit to English wine, but there's definitely still lots out there.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News. Time now for our head-to-head. Here's a question for you. Will Sir Keir Starmer be the Prime Minister this time next year? The Mail on Sunday columnist Dan Hodges has written today that the start of the PM's premiership has been so underwhelming that Labour grandees are now already beginning to wonder if Keir will be celebrating his first and last Christmas in Downing Street, with the likes of Wes Streeting and, could you believe it, Angela Rayner being seen as possible successors. So what to make of this? Is the Prime Minister already on notice, or is this some bored politicos making trouble before Christmas? Joining me to discuss this is former editor of Labour List, Peter Edwards, and former government senior special advisor under the Conservatives, James Price. Good evening to you both. Merry Christmas. Thank you for your company. James, what did you make of this column from Dan Hodges today? Labour grandees, MPs all muttering that could be Sir Keir's first and last Yuletide.
Yeah, I mean, it's good fun anyway, isn't it, to speculate on these sorts of things. On the surface, it sounds like a nonsense. You know, Labour did win a very big majority, albeit with the slimmest of actual vote share. And I think it's probably fair to say that my old party, the Conservatives, lost that election more than Labour won it. I think we'd all agree that. But it's nevertheless a big Commons majority. And apparently they've had a lot of time to work out what it is they really want to do in government. And they've even now rearranged deck chairs in the Titanic and moved senior people in and out and say they've now got a good team, as I think Dan Hodges' column talks about, good people in the heart of number 10. And yet things are still going wrong. Well, why is that? Could it be that it's Keir Starmer himself at the top of this? The chap doesn't seem to have any actual vision, any particular great love for the country, any real leadership skills or deep policy nous, or really anything in particular he seems to want to do with the job, other than perhaps give away bits of British territory, take the winter fuel payment away from people when he said he wouldn't, attack the farmers, and, you name it, all of these problems that go along. And you can see why perhaps already people are saying, well, we've got the big majority. Are we going to waste our time in government? Let's get rid of this guy and have one of these other ambitious people hop into his shoes.
Yeah, Peter Edwards, in Dan Hodges' column today, he said that it was the Prime Minister's perceived betrayal of the WASPy woman that had perhaps shifted within the government confidence of Keir Starmer. What do you make of that? Is that something you could probably agree with?
No, I'll skip over what I just heard. Some of a tiny bit of which was factual, and a lot was away with the fairies. In terms of the WASPy women, there is an historic injustice, and the Parliamentary Commissioner put the bill for redressing that at £10 billion. And our old friends, the Conservatives, left a deficit of well over 80 billion. So there isn't really a magic money tree to shake. But we all want to see justice for the WASPy women. I think all three of us can agree on that. But surely there's a middle ground between doing nothing to resolve it, as the Conservative did, and signing a £10 billion cheque with money that doesn't exist. So, you know, there's 4.5 years left before the next election. There's plenty of time to do something about it. But I'll make a wider point, you know. Labour's comms in the run-up to the budget weren't great. And they announced so far in advance the winter fuel cut for a fraction of the people, but they didn't really explain to the country why that was necessary. So they have run into trouble on their political strategy. But I really don't think, just as David Cameron and George Osborne weren't judged after 6 months, they were judged after 5 years and took some unpopular decisions. But did they make... Keir Starmer will be judged after 5 years.
But did they make so many gaffes and blunders as Keir Starmer has? A Labour MP is quoted in this piece today saying the WASPy woman situation was just another avoidable blunder. And the reality, quote unquote, the reality is that Keir has been making too many of them. You've got the winter fuel allowance, you've got the rise in business national insurance, you've got the farmers, all sorts, the WASPy women.
Well, we've got to be clear what's happened with the WASPy women. It's not like Labour have announced a policy that is unpopular. Labour said £10 billion is too much, and we're going to try to fix it.
So why did Keir Starmer spend his time holding placards saying that he supports WASPy women and he'll do anything he could to help them? Likewise,
well, if the Labour
Rachel
Party
Reeves.
exists, it's to tackle injustice. But look, let's go to policies that go up in flames. You know, do you remember the George Osborne omni-shambles budget? I remember it very well when I was a financial journalist. The pasty tax, the caravan tax, U-turn number 3, U-turn number 4, U-turn number 5. George Osborne, to my surprise, survived that. But the omni-shambles budget that smashed the Guinness World Book of Records for political errors in a single day didn't seem to derail his career. We're miles off that territory.
OK. James, apparently there was I'm told, a party for journalists at number 10 this week, where some sources, even close to this channel, said that Keir Starmer was looking particularly knackered. He looked strained under the weight of his first 5-6 months in power. Have you heard anything similar to that?
Well, I think it's going to happen to anybody. It is a phenomenally difficult job, and the way that the whole system is now set up, you can't get decisions made until it gets up to the Prime Minister. You know, the buck keeps getting passed up and up and up and up, and we have this horrendous kind of bottleneck where everything does land on the lap of the Prime Minister. That is really difficult, and that's going to be really difficult even if you've got great political antennae, even if you've got a great vision for what the country is going to go and do and how exciting it's going to be for the rest of the 2020s, and you can sell that vision. It's really difficult, even if you know how to try and make this civil service, that I think is a cause of a lot of our problems, having worked with them, I'm afraid, not the people themselves, but the system itself. Even if you've got all of the skills to deal with those problems, it's going to be a hell of a job. And I don't think that Keir Starmer has got the skills, either in the politics, the ability to explain to the country what he's trying to do and why it matters, nor the ability to make the machinery of government do the things that he and the Labour Party have got that mandate for now to do. And so I think that's the big problem he's got. And there'll be a lot of people in those top departments frustrated by the fact that actually they can't do a huge amount themselves. They don't have the power that they thought that they had before they got into those gigs, because so much of it sits with unelected civil servants and bureaucrats and regulators and things like that. They've actually got quite a lot of time on their hands to sit and scheme and think, well, if I get rid of Keir, then maybe I can go and be the person that saves the Labour Party and saves the country and copy the silliness that the Conservative Party did.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up, James. Peter, just last word to you. Is it not concerning that these kind of stories and columns are coming out so soon into Labour's premiership? You've got the likes of Wes Streeting apparently making moves, Angela Rayner being talked about. I mean, Prime Minister Rayner, could you imagine it?
Well, could you imagine Boris Johnson as Prime Minister? It's a nightmare to me. But many of the biggest dramas in politics never actually happen. Remember Adam Frey's coup against David Cameron, we're told? Never happened. Gordon Brown resigning to dethrone Tony Blair? Never happened. Many of the most exciting stories often appear in the Mail on Sunday turn out not to exist.
OK, all right, we'll leave it on that bombshell. I quite like the Mail on Sunday. But, yeah, each to your own. Peter, James, thank you very much for your company. Merry Christmas to you. Have a good one.
Merry Christmas.
OK, let's move on. This is, again, I say every night, one of my favourite segments on GB News. During Advent, as we count down to Christmas Day, we're hearing from church ministers all across the country. And each day, they, of course, as you know, have a very special message for you to celebrate the festive season.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 22.
Hi, I'm Chris Tufnell. I'm the vicar of Uterbridge Parish Church near Sheffield. At the end of the month, Buckingham Palace is going to publish the King's New Year Honours List. To get on that list, you have to do something really extraordinary, and it's often the result of a lifetime of work and achievement. Contrast that with how we'll honour each other on Christmas Day with the giving of presents, given not as a reward, but simply out of love. That second kind of honouring is what Christmas is all about. Jesus is the King who came at Christmas, not to honour extraordinary people for a lifetime of outstanding service, but to honour ordinary people, carpenters like Joseph, scared new mums like Mary, people working night shifts to try and make ends meet like the shepherds. He came to honour people like you and me. The Bible says, to those who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. That is the highest of honours, and it's on offer to you. Happy Christmas.
Lovely. And you can see all of our special Advent messages as Christmas approaches by visiting gbnews.com/Advent. Up next, is the word Christmas being erased from Britain? You will not believe what I found.
Do you say to people who say, yeah, happy holidays and winter market, we need to be more inclusive?
People are entitled to their opinion, but we also should respect tradition, and that is across everywhere.
You don't want to miss this. Stick with us. That's next. Back in a tick.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. As we go through the Christmas period, we'll see much milder weather affecting the UK. A lot of cloud around at times, giving outbreaks of rain, mainly towards the northwest, elsewhere largely dry. At the moment, we've got a chilly north to northwesterly airstream affecting the UK, tightly packed isobars, low pressure anchored there towards the northeast of the UK. And as we head through the evening and through the overnight period, we hold on to brisk winds, a gusty north to northwesterly airstream feeding further showers in from the northwest. The showers are a little bit wintry at times across the high ground in Scotland, with the best of the clear spells developing towards the south and east of the UK. And wherever you are, quite a chilly night. Temperatures down into mid to low single figures, perhaps locally dipping down to around freezing, giving a patchy frost in places, and the odd icy patch towards the northeast of the UK as well. As for Monday, well, we start the day with further wintry showers towards the northeast. The showers mainly wintry on the high ground in Scotland. Elsewhere across the country, some sunshine, with rain approaching the west coast there first thing on Monday. Outbreaks of rain also reaching much of Northern Ireland, but notice temperatures here a little bit milder than of late. And one or two showers across Wales, the far southwest of England, but elsewhere across the south and east of the UK, it's a fine, fairly chilly start. Fairly clear skies too, with plenty of sunshine developing as we go through the morning, and we hold on to lots of sunshine across those southern and eastern spots through the day on Monday, with cloudier skies, outbreaks of rain working their way in across many northern and western areas, a few heavy bursts of rain across Northern Ireland during the morning, pushing in across Irish Sea areas into the afternoon. And it's only quite breezy once again after those winds have eased during the first part of Monday. Quite chilly towards the south and east at 5 or 6 degrees, but starting to turn milder out towards the west and northwest as we head into Christmas Eve, and much milder days on the cards across the UK. A lot of cloud around, turning breezy at times, some rain too, mainly towards the northwest, elsewhere mostly dry, some hill fog in places, but notice much milder temperatures than we've seen in recent days, temperatures into double figures, and we hold on to rather cloudy but very mild conditions going through the rest of the Christmas period, with temperatures up to around 12 or 13 degrees.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Now, here's a question for you. Do you ever get the feeling Christmas is being erased? Because go to the busiest shopping streets in London today and you'll be hard-pushed to find the word Christmas anywhere. Instead, you'll see the words, I don't know, Regent Street celebrates, with no elaboration on what it's celebrating, holiday magic, merry everything, holiday wonderlights, and so on and so on. Holiday wonderlights, goodness me. And with Christmas markets in the news for all the wrong reasons, of course, I stumbled across one of London's busiest markets yesterday, where I again found not one mention of the all-crucial word. Take a look at this.
So we've just come down to what is described as London's biggest Christmas market. The only problem is, they've called it, if you follow me, they've called it a winter come-together. So my challenge now is to find anywhere in this market that says the word Christmas, maybe the word Jesus, any indication that this is indeed a religious holiday in the UK. We've got winter warmers at the winter market. Is this a Christmas market?
It's a winter market.
A winter market? What's the difference?
Something to do with religion. They can't say Christmas, but...
So apparently the stall traders here have been told they can't say the word Christmas. Happy Christmas or Happy Holidays?
Both.
Why both? It's Christmas,
both?
Isn't it?
It's Christmas, yeah.
Why would you say Happy Holidays? Which scenario?
Because not everybody celebrates Christmas.
Happy Holidays or Happy Christmas?
Oh, Happy Christmas. Absolutely Happy Christmas.
Whoa, hang on a minute. Christmas? You'll offend people saying that.
I know.
Happy Holidays?
Happy Christmas.
Winter market?
Christmas market.
This is the first sign of Christmas I've seen in this market. Oh, good man, look at that. He's in the spirit. So what have you got here? You've got mulled gin. Cheers. From the winter market, not Christmas. Oh, that's good. That's good. That gets me in the festive mood.
There we go, bit of fun. I actually went down there to find out about how people felt off the back of the German market attack, and then I saw that it was called a winter come together or something. And as I asked her, what do you make of that? Do you think Christmas and Christianity is being erased in England or the UK?
Funnily enough, I was thinking about this week as
really?
I was in London with my 13-year-old and showing her the lights, and instead of having any Christmassy Christian symbols, you know, we used to have angels floating above Regent Street or Oxford Street, it was just stars. Stars are lovely. I like stars.
They do look nice.
They do look nice.
But yeah, as you said.
The King's Road has crowns. I don't know why it has crowns. I don't know what crowns particularly. Is it the King's coming? But it just looks like we're having another Jubilee. And it does feel less Christmassy, but all I can say is everyone should come to Lincolnshire, where we definitely all celebrate
really?
Christmas.
What's it like up there? What have you done?
With that, it's not especially us, but house after house after house has lights everywhere. We've got Father Christmases. Every single town's having a Christmas market. They're calling it a Christmas market. And there is no embarrassment about it being part of our culture, and we are still a Christian culture here.
Colville, maybe it's a London thing then, is it? Maybe the demographics of London, a big sort of transient migrant population, is that playing a part?
Look, Ben, I'm a born and bred Londoner.
Yeah.
And actually, I get slightly offended when people ask me, do you celebrate Christmas? And I know they're tiptoeing around, well, he's obviously not Christian, and yes, I'm a Sikh. But there's nothing bigger than Christmas in London, in England, in Britain. And having grown up, every year we've had a tree up, we've done the nativity plays, we've sung carols, all that kind of stuff. But then I also celebrate, obviously, Sikh holidays, Diwali, and all kinds of other stuff as well. So it's about celebrating traditions, religions, cultures, and making them specific. This watering down of saying a winter something or the other, what does that mean to anyone? a seasonal event.
Winter Wonderlights.
And I particularly don't like happy holidays, right? Because that's an Americanism that's coming over here. And add to that Santa. You know, I prefer Father Christmas. But we're being Americanised to the point that my children are saying it's Santa, like Father Christmas. So I think we have to hold on and respect traditions, demonstrate that we enjoy, share them, and others who want to celebrate them, and just be happy about sharing this time with each other.
So, Paul Richards, why is Christianity then being censored and not other religions? You never see this in any other religion.
I don't think
Christianity always gets the.
I don't think it's been censored. I've never met anyone.
Well, what do you make of the clip I just showed you?
I've never met anyone who is offended by Christmas. Right? No one thinks, oh well, I'm going to be offended if you say Happy Christmas to me.
Why do they do that kind of nonsense?
Well, I don't know, but London is full of Christmas.
Oh, you do know. You do know. Some jobs worth in some council somewhere
Southwark Council
has said they're not going to allow this market to come on without that name on it. You know that.
You go across London, there are angels, there are crowns, there are cribs, there is Christmas happening all over London. It's nothing's been cancelled. It's not been cancelled.
No, but also I think there's a wider point to this as well, that this has got to be the most subdued London Christmas I've ever seen.
Did you see the Trafalgar Square tree?
The trees, we criticise the tree every year.
It's a gift from Norway.
It's a gift from Norway, and it looks rubbish every single year for my whole life. But the restaurants outside the very centre of London where we've got tourists are so empty. The shopping streets are not as full. The shopping centres are half empty. And I just feel this is a very flat Christmas. And it's the economy.
Businesses are struggling. People are struggling. But I think central London particularly does not feel like it's getting into the festive spirit. Actually, in our local high street, restaurants and people have had Christmas lights up. We've had our Christmas fair, we've had our Christmas festivities, we've had carol singing. And I think locally people are coming together. But the centre of London, there's something about the city itself.
I just don't think that's anything to do with Christmas. I think London does empty out now. You talk to the cabbies, they say Friday is now dead. People are not working on a Friday. People aren't celebrating on a Friday night.
Or living in
London to do with Christmas.
Up until the 23rd, 24th of December for 40 years. It's never felt this dead. And I've always been in the same bits of London.
What about all the thousands of people going to Winter Wonderland in Hyde Park?
Well,
I've never seen so many people.
Nice segue, Paul, because talking of Winter Wonderland, I mean, talking about the safety of being in London and whatever else, and has the Christmas cheer been diluted? At Winter Wonderland 4 days ago, somebody who had acid thrown in their face.
Terrible.
That's terrible.
I mean,
that's not because
that's not feeling safe in London and the festive cheer.
I think there's a combination. You're highlighting a combination of things. If we don't feel safe, if we feel like the cost of living and the cost of taxes and the cost of everything else, and businesses can't invest in Christmas and those holidays, there's a problem. But I have to say, we went to a wonderful, and if I don't mind giving a shout out to Odd's Farm, where we went for a great Christmas grotto, and we went for the second year running. The farms and others who are sort of pivoting to do things for children. Again, you go and see the animals. You also see Father Christmas. You get some toys. I think we're looking at doing those more community things, and communities do try to bring that together. But it's kind of fighting the system rather than working with the system.
And Siasta, do you blame Justin Welby for the sort of dilution of Christianity in the UK? He was a bit of a rubbish.
As a Catholic, I've got lots of criticisms that I will keep privately about various archbishops who don't seem to be really preaching the word of God as far as I'm concerned. But I think it's more to do with, as you said, the jobs worths. It's the fear of offence, even though actually it doesn't really offend anyone.
It doesn't, does it, though? You talk to anybody Jewish or Hindu or Muslim, they couldn't care less.
I have to say, though, look, I'm the one who's had to send cards out, and I see people send me things which says season's greetings or whatever it is. I write Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you.
As a recipient of your card, I can confirm it's true.
I just don't understand people like the British lady who I spoke to at the market. She was saying, we have to say Happy Holidays or...
They don't have to say anything.
Exclude Christmas because there are people of other faiths. I just don't understand the thinking or where it comes from.
Well, as someone of other faith, am saying, say Merry Christmas to me because it is Christmas.
OK, there we go. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. And a Happy New Year. Right, up next, the Labour government, Paul Richards, is kicking off the new year by lumbering households with up to £1.4 billion in extra grocery costs. That's thanks to a wacky new net zero tax. They're never ending, aren't they? I'll have all the details in just a few minutes. This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest With the Sun forecast. If you're travelling over the Christmas period, it's certainly going to remain unsettled for central parts of the Mediterranean. There's an area low pressure brings some strong winds, some heavy rain and also some snow to the higher levels. Something a little bit quieter for parts of Iberia, plenty of sunshine to be had here, but then down towards the Canaries, still the risk of some showers, although it will improve here as we approach Christmas Day itself. Temperatures in Madeira reaching around 20 degrees on Christmas Day.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
As Strictly Come Dancing approaches its iconic Blackpool episode, marking halfway through the competition, visually impaired dancers across the country have spoken out about how groundbreaking the casting of Chris McCausland is, who suffers from, if I hope I'm saying this correctly, retinitis pigmentosa, and they have found him particularly inspiring. We've been talking, Sean, about how the casting of Strictly has been inspiring to so many people, but I imagine there'll be lots of people who are watching this at home finding your story of resilience really inspiring, because you've obviously really been through it. Is dancing something that has sort of, you know, helped keep you going through all of those troubles? And what does it mean to you to see casting like this on a show like Strictly Come Dancing?
Like I say, all the things I went through. So those 9 years when I wasn't dancing, you know, I was still dancing in my head and just banging on to other people. Very much not just people with sight loss. You know, I've been a big advocate for people with social isolation. So many people on their own now, social anxiety, especially since COVID. And I just want people to get out. The stuff that I'm doing and all the stuff Chris is obviously doing, it will inspire others. Again, like I say, just not people just with sight loss. I had so many people come up to me in the early days, guys, and now that say, you know what, Shawnee, I've seen you do it, so I'm just going to do it. But you just got to get over yourself, because if you bother to do the maths, you know, because all it is maths and walking. Yeah. You know, that's all it is.
Maths and walking actually sounds quite difficult.
Sean, thank you.
Oh, come on, mate. Can you shout? Can you walk? Crack on.
Sean, you're an inspiration. Thank you, mate, for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it. You're a star, and so glad.
Just before I go, I'm just going to say this is Kev. Here's Kev.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes. Thank you for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. Now, the net zero grift continues as reports today suggest the new government green tax on food packaging will cost British households up to £1.4 billion a year. So the tax will be imposed on retailers and manufacturers who are expected to be charged per tonne of packaging for the materials they use to pack their food. Retailers have been warned that the cost of this will inevitably be passed on to consumers. So guess who will be footing the bill? Well, you, of course, at home. Joining me to discuss this is the Director of Climate Media Coalition, Donica McCarthy. Donica, good evening. Thank you for joining me. Net zero, it's fleecing everybody, isn't it, for pennies?
Merry Christmas, Ben. How are you?
Merry Christmas.
I think you actually need to read the article. This has nothing to do with carbon or net zero. This is about packaging waste.
Plastic,
The intention is not to tackle the carbon emissions, even though there are some carbon emissions associated. It's to tackle the huge cost to ratepayers and taxpayers of dealing with the mountain of packaging waste that we have to deal with. The figures are staggering. It's £12.8 billion, Ben. Our taxpayers' money is spent on disposing of waste every year. Another £1 billion is spent sweeping up litter on the streets, 50% of which is packaging waste. And the Tory government rightly decided they need to tackle this at source and put a levy on those who produce the packaging, i.e. the producers of packaging. And so the intention is to reduce this mountain of waste that's costing every single householder hundreds of pounds.
But Donica, so why should British households, mums and dads who are doing the weekly shop and so on, why should they be fleeced for this to help manufacturers? Why is it down to them? They're skint already. They're struggling to put food on the table or heat their homes.
We're absolutely on the same page. We're absolutely on the same page. But I don't understand why you are insisting that homeowners should spend nearly £500 a year dealing with the waste that these people are producing. Why should a pensioner pay £500 a year in taxes to deal with the mountain of waste these people are producing? Surely, as somebody from the right who believes in market economics, if you produce a product, you should deal with the cost of it. And at the moment, plastic producers are dependent on taxpayers bailing them out. And you and I should actually agree that this is a good idea to tackle them.
Well, I don't agree with skint households being lumbered with more bills via taxes. No, I don't, unfortunately. What I do agree with, though, Donica,
hang on. You agree that that taxpayers should spend £500 a year dealing with the waste that these people are producing. Why do you want that?
No, I don't agree with that. But you're saying taxpayers. You're saying taxpayers will be saved money. And yet the same taxpayers will be paying the same money back on their grocery bills. You're just moving one problem to another.
No, what we're actually doing...
Households are still footing the bill, no?
It's the same old story of the Daily Mail. If you read the thing, the Daily Mail warned when we brought in the plastic bag levy in 2015, it's going to be chaos, it's going to cost people a fortune, homeowners are going to be penalised, poor old pensioners. What happened? We went from 140 plastic bags a year down to 2. And the amount of waste, plastic bags blowing around in the street, council having to pay to tidy them up, wildlife being destroyed by it, has absolutely evaporated. You know, we've gone from 7 billion bags of plastic bags a year down to 0.1 of a billion. A huge success. These levies work if you apply it properly. And what I am calling for is to save homeowners £500 a year.
Yeah, but they're paying it back on their grocery bill, so it doesn't make a difference. Donica, let me ask you about something else. Another story in the Mail today, your favourite newspaper, says that Labour's accelerated net zero drive will create more than 170,000 new jobs in China. So this is analysis by the Tories, I will say that. But Labour, of course, need to build onshore wind sites all across the UK, and that is done in China. But let me ask you, aside from these jobs being made in China, how do they build these massive wind turbines? Surely with coal and fossil fuels, no?
Well, the Office of National Statistics has actually estimated there are already 675,000 green jobs in the UK economy. If you want to trash the green economy, you're trashing jobs across the UK, whether it's in the northeast...
I'm talking about China, Donica. 32,000 jobs in China, making 2/3 of the world's wind turbines.
Yes, actually, I mean, if you actually want to destroy 650,000 UK jobs on the basis that China's making some jobs, then actually that doesn't make any sense to me. What's the problem with the Tory approach to net zero is it's really on-market-based approach. They approach it as only as like a balance sheet where you only look at the investment and you never look at the profits. But the green profits are extraordinary for these.
Okay, Donica, you didn't ask my question with respect. I said 2/3 of the world's wind turbines are manufactured in China. How are those wind turbines made? Using fossil fuels?
Absolutely, but actually what you need...
What a joke. Do you not think that's ridiculous?
I want a world where everything is made.
China's opening the equivalent of 6 coal-powered power stations a week. And they're making our wind turbines also we can be net zero and green in the UK, whilst they're making these very same turbines with fossil fuels. That's ridiculous.
China is making it with a mixture of energy, just like we are making our products with a mixture of energy. And China has invested more than 50% of the global investment in renewables has been made by China. China is actually ahead of its commitments on the Paris Agreement. We are not.
And they're chugging coal like it's going out of fashion. Donica McCarthy, thank you very much. I'm going to bring in the panel now because Paul Richards, of course, is here, former Labour Special Advisor, who could maybe give the Labour side of things on the deranged march to net zero. Colby Ranger and Anatsiata Rees-Mogg. Paul?
Well, I think these particular levies on packaging are a good idea, and I think they're not designed to fleece the customer. They're designed to change behaviours, particularly amongst the corporates and the companies, to stop wasting so much of the resources on the packaging. We all, you know, these packages that come to our doors, and it's like a box within a box within a box, and it's a comb or something. You know what I mean? It's just absurd. That actually happened to me the other day.
What have you been ordering?
Well, quite. Why do I need a comb? But anyway, you know, this is over packaging, and if there's a levy on it, the companies which are driven by profit will say, well, let's do it in a better way. It's brilliant that we've got fewer plastic bags in circulation now, and everyone complained about that, and yet we're all quite used to taking our bag for life down to the supermarket. So these things change behaviour.
I can't stand it, to be honest. You know, having to drag bags around to the supermarket, you don't have a bag, maybe carrying the groceries back to the car.
And then you get stung for 50p for another bag, or a pound for another bag.
It was meant to be 5p.
Yeah, and
10p.
Yeah.
But
what about the wildlife?
All of these
This is about saving wildlife, for God's sake.
And then the shops see an opportunity to make a bit of a profit on it, and it goes up even more. But the fact is that switching to paper, as for example Morrison's has done, is so much heavier that your transportation costs, and through that your diesel and so on and
We've
so
got to get rid of the plastic, though, haven't we? We've got to get rid of the plastic out of the system.
And then, as you said, we look to China, and we're in fact making no difference here.
But the argument,
at all.
well, hang on,
You're
the argument,
just penalising British shoppers.
The argument then surely is we should build those turbines in the UK, which is what I would want to see. We want to get the manufacturing here.
Seeing they produce
Why are we importing them?
plastics day in, day out as the
I don't want to rely on China
Should we
either.
be doing them at all?
I think what Ben's saying, and if you forgive me, Ben, is the honesty with the British public about the cost and who's going to bear it of net zero. And I think we all want to be more sustainable. We want to have less CO2. We want to burn less fossil fuels. But we want to be clear about what's the cost to us, and then what is the cost of doing this, so that we can see how this will work out. What we hear at the moment is, oh, it's all good news, and then suddenly we get hit by various taxes and increases and everything.
Well, also it's good. Hang on.
Can I just say, I don't want to use less fossil fuels in this country. I want to use more of it. I think we should be fracking. I think we should be giving North Sea licences.
I think most of us want to be able to afford our
I want us
fuel
to
bills.
be competitive in an energy environment and provide cheap energy for British people. Now, what's the best way for us to do that? Whether it's fracking, fine. If we can get it done in a way that gives us a competitive advantage and gives us people the low prices that they need, fine. Because at the moment, we're also paying the highest energy prices amongst the highest energy prices in the world, which is not fair, and it should be about fair. So I think the government, when they look at these policies, must look at what's in it for the British people.
Anatsiata, anything to add to that?
I think that's absolutely right, and we do need to look at fracking. We need to reopen the North Sea and provide licences for people to extract the oil and gas that we have there, so that British people can benefit.
The way we'll benefit,
we can afford to heat our homes, that we might not need to have these arguments.
The way we'll benefit,
about
though, is
winter
this,
fuel payments,
investing in these
because people can
technologies.
afford to heat their homes. Instead, we have, through green policies, priced ourselves out of the market.
We've got to leave it there, unfortunately. I would like to say, Paul, very quickly, last word. Come on.
Well, it's about apprenticeships and jobs and investment and getting some manufacturing back into the UK. It's an opportunity as well as a threat. That's
the
what
jobs are going to China.
That's why they need to come here. That's the whole point.
I want to see the countryside turn into Swiss cheese. Frack, baby, frack. Anyway, back in just to take a big exclusive on one of the world's, well, the country's most dangerous female terrorists walking freely on the streets of Britain tonight. Back in just a few minutes.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. As we go through the Christmas period, we'll see much milder weather affecting the UK. A lot of cloud around at times, giving outbreaks of rain, mainly towards the northwest, elsewhere largely dry. At the moment, we've got a chilly north to northwesterly airstream affecting the UK, tightly packed isobars, with low pressure anchored there towards the northeast of the UK. And as we head for the evening and through the overnight period, we hold on to brisk winds, a gusty north to northwesterly airstream feeding further showers in from the northwest. The showers are a little bit wintry at times across the high ground in Scotland, with the best of the clear spells developing towards the south and east of the UK. And wherever you are, quite a chilly night. Temperatures down into mid to low single figures, perhaps locally dipping down to around freezing, giving a patchy frost in places, and the odd icy patch towards the northeast of the UK as well. As for Monday, well, we start the day with further wintry showers towards the northeast. The showers mainly wintry on the high ground in Scotland. Elsewhere across the country, some sunshine, with rain approaching the west coast there first thing on Monday. Outbreaks of rain also reaching much of Northern Ireland, but notice temperatures here a little bit milder than of late. And 1 or 2 showers across Wales, the far southwest of England, but elsewhere across the south and east of the UK, it's a fine, fairly chilly start. Fairly clear skies too, with plenty of sunshine developing as we go through the morning, and we hold on to lots of sunshine across those southern and eastern spots through the day on Monday, with cloudier skies, outbreaks of rain working their way in across many northern and western areas, a few heavy bursts of rain across Northern Ireland during the morning, pushing in across Irish Sea areas into the afternoon. And it's only quite breezy once again after those winds have eased during the first part of Monday. Quite chilly towards the south and east at 5 or 6 degrees, but starting to turn milder out towards the west and northwest. As we head into Christmas Eve, and much milder days on the cards across the UK. A lot of cloud around, turning breezy at times. Some rain too, mainly towards the northwest. Elsewhere mostly dry, some hill fog in places. But notice much milder temperatures than we've seen in recent days. Temperatures into double figures. And we hold on to rather cloudy but very mild conditions going through the rest of the Christmas period, with temperatures up to around 12 or 13 degrees.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine getting a call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God. This is amazing.
I'm in shock.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
What about train Wi-Fi? The Times. It's so funny the Times did this story, because I was on the train yesterday trying to do some work and connecting to the Wi-Fi, and it happens all the time. It just doesn't work. It's pathetic. And then I opened the Times, and they've done a massive investigation. Loads of different rail routes from north to south.
Was that the James Bond thing, right?
Yes. Yeah. What's
well, that passenger got through, or almost got through, one episode one James Bond movie in 8 hours.
But you know, it's interesting. We call it train Wi-Fi, but it isn't. It's just really a SIM card on a train, really. So if your own phone's not going to get signal, why would we assume that the train's going to have signal? It just doesn't work like that. Unless you're in Japan or South Korea, whose infrastructure is infinitely better than ours, you're just not going to get signal. You have to download those films way before you get on
There is technology that can help with that. You know, there really is. If they found ways to put it underground, they can get it on ground and get you going. I definitely think, you know, with the price that we're paying for these tickets, they can get the Wi-Fi going. There is technology.
That's why it's so frustrating, isn't
Call
it?
Elon, get a Starlink, let's go.
If you're a passenger paying hundreds of pounds for a season ticket or whatever you call it, and, you know, commute to work every single day, and you're paying all this money, and you can't.
It's so expensive. You'd expect Wi-Fi at the basic. Yeah, exactly.
But it happens with phone signal as well. I'll be walking down London in Park Lane or somewhere else, or down on the south coast. I just don't have phone signal, and I think to myself, what on earth is going on?
Doesn't it feel like 5G's made it worse, though?
Yeah.
Because I feel like 4G, that didn't happen so much, but 5G just feels like...
Yeah, and then I always get this little E in the top corner of my phone, and I don't get any signal. I think it's got worse over the past couple of years. Yeah, especially with 5G. I agree with that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Ben Leo. Tonight, names and pictured. The 9-year-old boy killed in the German Christmas market attack. His broken mother begs, Andre didn't do anything to anybody. Why him? Just why? Also tonight, in a GB News exclusive, one of the country's most dangerous female terrorists who bought her husband a knife in an IS terror plot and practiced stabbing attacks on a dummy has been freed from jail and is now back on British streets. Elsewhere, has the government opened the door to blocking Elon Musk from lumping Reform UK a multi-million-pound donation war chest? So, after accepting millions from abroad themselves, just what are Labour scared of? Tomorrow's front pages are on the way and my panel are ready to go too. I'm joined by Conservative peer and former advisor to Boris Johnson, Lord Colville Ranger, Head of Comms at Popular Conservatism, Annunziata Rees-Mogg, and former Labour Special Advisor, Paul Richards. And what happens when the Home Secretary donned a Christmas hat and dished out mince pies?
Well, would you like one?
No.
All right.
No, I hope you're not going to win next time. I hope you're out next time.
One of the country's most dangerous female terrorists has been released from prison and is back on British streets tonight. First, your news headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Ben, thank you. Good evening. Your headlines at 10 o'clock. Tributes have been paid to 9-year-old Andre Gleisner, who was killed in the German Christmas market attack on Friday evening. In a tribute on social media, his mother, Desiree Gleisner, called him "my little teddy bear" and said he would always live in our hearts. The attack left 5 people dead and over 200 injured after a driver used an emergency vehicle lane to plough into the Christmas market in Magdeburg. German authorities are coming under fire after warnings about the suspect were received last year but deemed unspecific. Chancellor Olaf Scholz and ministers face angry hecklers during a visit to the site as questions mount over security and how the attack could happen. Social media giant X, owned by Elon Musk, is also being scrutinised for failing to act on the suspect's threatening posts before the attack. Security has been ramped up across Germany and the rest of Europe, with armed police patrolling festive events and Christmas markets. In other news, Yvette Cooper has been attacked by an angry voter who branded her two-faced for handing out mince pies while pensioners are, quote, freezing to death.
That is so two-faced, in a mince pie.
It's a nice tradition.
No. Give him a blanket, because they're freezing to death. They're freezing.
The Home Secretary was told she would be better off donating blankets to elderly people while dishing out the treats during a visit to West Yorkshire. In the confrontation captured on camera and shared on social media, the voter tells Miss Cooper she should heat the mince pies up to keep freezing pensioners warm after Labour cut their winter fuel payments. Now, US actress Blake Lively has been supported by It Ends With Us author Colleen Hoover after accusing her co-star of sexual harassment. She accused Justin Baldoni of making sexual comments about the cast and crew, showing her explicit videos and images of women, and discussing his previous alleged porn addiction. However, Baldoni has now hit back and claims that Lively has only filed the lawsuit to try to repair her reputation in the wake of negative press. But in a post on Instagram, the film's author wrote, "Blake Lively, you have been nothing but honest, kind, supportive and patient since the day we met." Now, strong winds are continuing causing travel chaos in parts of the UK tonight as millions of people travel ahead of Christmas. The AA predicts 21.3 million drivers will have hit the road today, capping off a weekend of record-breaking traffic. Yellow weather warnings for gales are in place and adding strain, grounding 100 flights at Heathrow and stopping a number of P&O ferry services. The Met Office is warning of continued disruption and even power cuts into the evening. Meanwhile, emergency services have rushed to Belfast City Airport this evening after a plane crash-landed onto the runway as Britain continues to be battered by 82-mile-an-hour winds. The airport's runway was closed this afternoon after an Aer Lingus plane suffered an emergency incident while performing a hard landing during the stormy weather. No one was believed to have been seriously hurt. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Ben.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. One of the country's most dangerous female terrorists who bought her husband a knife in an Islamic State terror plot and then practiced attacks on a dummy has been freed from jail. Madea Tahir, then 22, was jailed for 10 years in 2017 after purchasing a combat knife for her husband to be used in a lone wolf terror attack. Shocking footage that you can see here, released at the time, showed her punching the dummy in the chest and another posing with a gun and pointing it to a camera. The Islamic State devotee was cleared for release by a panel of experts from the parole board in July and understood to have been released from prison in the last few weeks. She was arrested along with her husband Umar Mirza, who had researched potential targets to attack, including an army barracks in the Midlands, and is believed to have been on the brink of an operation. A series of chilling messages sent to each other at the time were read out during their trial in court. One message said that Mirza wanted to stab someone 27 times, to which Tahir replied, "That sounds so satisfying." Mirza admitted preparing terrorist acts and 2 counts of possessing information useful to a terrorist. Tahir, meanwhile, denied any involvement but was found guilty of the preparation of terrorist acts after the trial at Woolwich Crown Court in October 2017. Tonight, she's free again to walk the streets of Britain. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Conservative peer and former advisor to Boris Johnson, Lord Colville Ranger, Head of Comms at Popular Conservatism, Annunziata Rees-Mogg, and the former Labour Special Advisor, Paul Richards. Welcome back, panel. Annunziata, is this soft justice? Should this person still be back in prison? And also, bearing in mind the attacks in Germany on Friday night, it's bad timing.
The conversation she had with her boyfriend at the time, later husband, are deeply disturbing. And I think what really concerns me is not only that she said she wanted him to kill people and that he, as part of the nikah, he would provide dead people basically for her in terrorism acts. Truly sick. But that whilst he admitted his guilt, she pled not guilty. She was found very clearly guilty. And now she's been in front of the parole board. Has she admitted that she was guilty and been rehabilitated? We will never know. The parole board is behind closed doors. We can only hope so, because she is back on our streets. But I think the public need the reassurance that this woman is not actually a threat any longer, having served only 70% of a not enormously long sentence.
I mean, Colville, what goes through the mind of somebody who says, "That sounds so satisfying," when their partner has explained how they want to commit terrorist attacks in Britain and stab people and, all sorts of horrific things?
I think, Ben, you've got to question those individuals and quite carefully understand what, as Annunziata just said, rehabilitation means. And I think in these kinds of incidents, the public want transparency. We should be able to understand what is the justification that is going to allow someone who has been found guilty of that kind of activity, that kind of, heinous behaviour, what does it take to allow them to be considered safe to be back on the streets? And also, then what is the pressure that is put on our security services to monitor these people? And if all of that doesn't add up, then we have to look at sentencing and see if sentencing is appropriate and if it does need to be looked at again. Can we get the clip of the Tahir stabbing that dummy again, just please, whilst we discuss this? So, Paul Richards, she, as Annunziata said, she pled not guilty, so she wasn't even willing to cop up to what she had done, and she's out having served 70% of her sentence. Can we trust the parole board to do a decent job here? Do we have to trust them to do a good job? And how many other examples are there of this kind of thing?
I mean, that's exactly the question, isn't it? Is that they must have done this in some knowledge that she was not a danger to society. They're not doing this to free up a prison place. They're doing this because they believe she's being rehabilitated and she is a safe member of society. But we have to be reassured. I mean, we're in violent agreement here that we need reassurance that they've made the right decision for the right reasons, and there does need to be a little bit of transparency around that, because otherwise it's terrifying, isn't it? And like I say, this person has to be safe on our streets, otherwise they shouldn't be.
I was going to say, sorry to have a dig at your man again, Sir Keir Starmer, but whilst people like this are being released on the streets, again, we have people who going back to the riots, stood on the sidelines, weren't involved. They've been banged up. People who wrote things online, stupid things online, they've been banged up, and yet they complain that there's no space in prisons.
Well, and they'll serve their sentence and they'll go in front of a parole board and in due course they'll be released as well. I mean, that's how our system works. We're not defending the rioters, are we? I mean, you know, that they serve justice quite
I'm not
rightly.
defending bonehead rioters who went and tried to burn down hotels, but I would argue that people who simply... A judge even said it verbatim in court. He said anybody who was on the sidelines of those riots, watching as an innocent bystander, will be getting custodial sentences. Likewise, the people who wrote things online. So it just kind of... Can you agree, Colville, that it's in the public perception of justice in this country, you've got people who want to commit harm and terror attacks being let free to walk the streets of Britain, and then you've got some idiots who wrote stuff online being put in their place?
It doesn't feel right. But I have to say, in this instance, we're not comparing apples with apples.
No.
But if you commit a crime and you're found guilty, you must do the sentence. And if that means going to prison, I'm for stricter, stronger sentences for people who incite hatred, people who are acting and creating violence on the streets of our country, and for potential people who want to attack other people. So I'm very much of the clear mind that we must have strong sentences.
And well, can I just pick up on Annunziata's point about surveillance as well? Because, I mean, you know, this may put more pressure on the security services.
It's not cheap.
And it's not cheap. And I think we do need to have a question about resourcing of the security services and probably putting... You know, Tony Blair doubled the budget for this when he was in government. And I think this Labour government needs to look at this again.
I mean, he partly doubled it because more people were allowed out on licence early and they needed to be watched. But I don't know that the public have huge faith in that monitoring, that we have known examples of people going on to commit crime whilst in theory they're being closely watched, but in fact there are too many people to watch and they can't do it. They can't protect the public with those people out on the streets.
One off the top of my head was one of the London Bridge attackers in July 2017. He was on a Channel 4 documentary, I can't remember the name, was it The Jihadi Next Door, perhaps? And he was on the watch list, and yet he committed the atrocity in London Bridge. This person, Tahir, who I just spoke about, is a British national. We can't deport them anyway because they're British. What do we do with British terrorists who hate our way of life?
I think terrorism charges are very particular and should be treated as such, that rehabilitation is a very different thing from a crime of passion or, you know, something caused by addiction. This is a philosophy for life, and it takes a lot to persuade me that that philosophy will have changed.
It's clear. If they're a danger to the public and they've been sentenced, then we have to ensure that they get the sentence and are kept... The public is kept safe from these kinds of people. That's the kind of law and order that we need, that if we have people who are a danger to the public, we make sure that we do the right thing in terms of where they are kept.
OK, well, the parole board will say that they have, of course, interviewed these people to hear in this case and they've passed all the tests and so on. But a bigger concern for me is how are we getting British citizens indoctrinated to hate their own country like this? What's going on at home? Who are they listening to? What venues are they going to?
But that's a good point, Easy. That's why we need to disrupt this upstream. And again, when we were in government last time round, there were lots of programmes around the prevent agenda going into the madrasas and boxing clubs and all these ungoverned spaces and making sure this, what was then called the Al-Qaeda narrative, wasn't allowed to establish itself in the minds, because every violent extremist started off as a non-violent extremist. And so if you can disrupt it at that point and put these other arguments forward, then you can prevent some of this terrible stuff happening.
To be fair, Paul, that work's been going on endlessly with community faith people, with people coming together to understand what's being taught in certain religious environments to help mitigate. But it is a growing problem, and I think we have to keep focusing on it, because it's not just a stop and start thing. It's something that we have to keep looking at. And British values, what that means, we were talking about Christmas earlier, celebrating multicultural religions working...
Well, and democracy as well. You know, voting, democracy, debate...
And what is great about this country, I think, that's what we should celebrate. The more we talk ourselves down, the more people think, well, this thing's wrong here, let's hate the country, we're not, not proud of who we are.
Also, it is integration, that if the first generation here isn't integrating into wider British society, you are much more likely to get... smaller communities where extremist views can take hold.
Which is why teaching English is important. I mean, a Labour minister pops up every now and then and says he gets denounced for this. But yes, of course people should be able to speak English and be part of a society.
Well, what was the stat? Was it 4 million people in the UK can't speak English? I mean, to me,
that's not right. That's not right. That should not be right. Not the stat, but that should not be happening in modern Britain.
No.
OK. And Colby, I hear you praise, the benefits of multiculturalism, but I think the fact is there are many people in this country not of our culture who just don't like us. They don't like our way of life, including British people.
I think that the challenge is, look, I'm obviously my parents come from a different culture.
Yeah.
But I'm part of a modern Britain that says I can be a Sikh, I can be British, I'm a Londoner, I support the England cricket team, the tennis festival. But that's where we've brought the best of the world together, and I'm very proud to be British first.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've got to spread within anyone who comes and lives in this country, is born in this country from another culture. And that love of country, that's something that we can be very patriotic about.
Last word on it, Siasa?
Well, absolutely, and part of that is not being embarrassed about who the British people are, not being ashamed of our traditions, and yet we seem to hide them all the time.
Yes, no winter wonder lights or winter markets. Be gone with them. Right, a spokesperson for the Parole Board said, "We can confirm that a panel on the Parole Board has directed the release of Madia Tahir following an oral hearing. Parole Board decisions are solely focused on what risk a prisoner could represent to the public if released and whether that risk is manageable in the community, and any evidence of behaviour change, as well as explore the harm done and impact the crime has had on the victims. Parole reviews are undertaken thoroughly and with extreme care. Protecting the public is our number 1 priority." Good to hear.
You know the problem with that is, Ben? That's a methodology. That doesn't give us faith in what's happened in this case.
That's just some comms thing someone's rattled out. I mean, much like... Oh, I won't bully Sir Keir Starmer. I was going to say much like Sir Keir Starmer. No personality or substance in it, but... Sorry, Prime Minister. Anyway, time now for our greatest, great British giveaway, the greatest one ever. Apparently, £50,000 up for grabs, double the previous prize, and it's yours to win. It's tax-free. Here's all the details you need to win.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck to you. Now, will Labour stop Elon Musk's millions pouring into Reform UK? I'll be asking Anne Widdecombe next. Back in a sec.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Our next guest has a rather unique career story. She was working at a pub, aged 18, and Holly Farmer was spotted by a modelling scout, and it turned out to be her lucky day.
Scott Yoss-Clark sent this message to Holly.
Holly, 18, 5'10", she does not belong in a pub. And I absolutely love that, Holly, because it's a bit like Dirty Dancing, where it's like, you can't put baby in the corner. Holly does not belong in a pub. You belong on the catwalk. What was that moment like for you when you were scouted by yours?
It was crazy. I have to say I wasn't expecting it, to be honest. Like, I was just on my lunch break. I was working at a pub, so... I was on my lunch break walking, going to Primark, and...
You're going to Primark?
Got stopped by yours.
And how did that interaction go?
Well, first question was, how tall are you? So, 5'10".
Very much that.
Yeah, then he gave me his card and asked, explained everything, that he's a model scout, obviously.
Yeah, because generally when I scout, especially when I get close to that person, I tend to look in their eyes, and when you see something there, it's like everything works on the face, and then the eyes gives you away.
Well, you've spotted a gem in Holly. I mean, you can tell even when you walked in, you are built to be a model.
I did my first fashion week here in London and then went to Paris, and it was really fun.
Wow.
Now it's my full-time job. It's a bit crazy, to be honest, to be able to say that modelling is my full-time job now. Some brands will ask you to be a bit more serious, and then others not.
So it depends on the client's request as well. Ellie, give us your best model face. Ready? 3. I wonder if we can come back. 3, 2, 1. Very nice.
High fashion.
Yeah.
But you guys do all like contorted moves, don't you?
Yeah.
Like all this high fashion. Do yours?
I'm just permanently living in model
You actually
model
are,
world.
though. He actually
This
does.
is it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. I'm joined now by Reform UK's Anne Widdicombe. And good evening. I understand you wanted to comment quickly on the previous discussion. This terrorist who was sympathetic to Islamic State, released from prison in the past couple of days, free to walk the streets of Britain.
Yes, I think there's something that your panel missed, which is this. If somebody gets a determinate sentence, in this case 10 years, after 10 years, that's it. It's got to be released anywhere. Now, if you release early, then the parole board can lay down very strict conditions. They can monitor whether she's adhering to those conditions. You say she's walking the streets, but she's walking the streets subject to those conditions. And therefore, sometimes you get greater control if you do release at the earlier point.
And you know this, of course, you were former prisons minister. So is it right, Anne, that if she served her whole term and then come out, she wouldn't or could not have been subject to such stringent conditions?
No, of course you couldn't, because once you've done your sentence, I mean, yes, if it's for something like terrorism, they'll keep some control, but they can lay down much stricter conditions if they're releasing you before the end of your sentence. And that was just missed.
Yeah. OK, well, look, I'm glad for your input, definitely. As a former prisons minister, it's great to have your contributions on that. The only concern is, you know, as I mentioned, the kind of two-tier justice narrative that's going around. We've got convicted terrorists coming out of prison and then stuff associated with the rioters. But anyway, that's another conversation. Anne, I want to pick your brains, please, on something close to your party. The government has suggested it could block Elon Musk from donating millions of pounds to Reform UK as part of wider changes to the electoral rules. So Labour's pledged to strengthen rules on political donations, but has come under intense pressure to rush through the reforms off the back of Nigel Farage meeting Elon Musk at Mar-a-Lago. This is what Lucy Powell, the leader of the Commons, said earlier this morning.
Well, we are committed to bringing forward some changes to the way in which elections are run in this country. There will be an elections bill, but just to be clear that foreign donations to UK-based political parties is prohibited under current law. So that's something that already exists.
They're coming for you, Anne. Nigel's not going to get his hands on Elon's money.
Well, if Labour has its way, he won't. But, I mean, it is a slight contradiction there. She says, you know, the prohibition already exists, and it is implying at the same time that the rules could be tightened up. And, of course, there are specific rules which apply at election time, with limits to expenses, limits to expenditure, rather, and all the rest of it, which don't apply in the interim. So I'm very hopeful that we will get something. I don't know whether we will or not, but I'm hoping we're going to get something.
How much? Can you put a number on it?
I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not going to be drawn on these fantastic sums which have been bandied about all over the media. I don't know is the answer, but I hope we'll get something.
The reported 80 million, though, that would be nice, wouldn't it? I mean, not sure if it's even allowed, but 80 million, you could do some damage with that.
I think you'll find that we're doing quite a lot of damage on the modest resources that we've got at the moment.
Yes.
If by damage you mean powering through the rather biased political system that we've got, not biased, but weighted in favour of the two big parties.
Well, yeah, you do say it's biased, Anne, and I can understand why some people, especially Reform people, would say that, because in terms of political donations, Labour, before the election, had a £4.5 million donation from a Cayman's Island tax hedge fund, a tax haven, of course. You had Gary Lubner, the South African millionaire, who gave Sir Keir Starmer £4 million. So just a few months ago, Labour were happy to take overseas donations, but now suddenly Elon Musk is involved and Reform are involved. It smells a bit of hypocrisy.
Yes, well, I mean, the fact is we are making huge strides in Labour seats. We came second in something like 89 Labour seats last time. They are under huge pressure from us. And therefore they're inclined to try and manipulate the system to suit them. But, I mean, the public can see that. The public aren't fools.
And it's the council elections coming in May. There was talk this morning, there was a column in the Mail on Sunday, which we've already discussed, from Dan Hodges, suggesting this could be the first and the last Christmas Keir Starmer spends in Downing Street, not least if Reform do as they're threatening to do at the council elections in May.
I think Keir Starmer's time as Prime Minister may well indeed be limited, but what is not going to be limited is Labour's time in government. They have too big a majority to lose a vote of confidence. We're stuck with them, and no matter who leads them, they can just carry on doing as much damage as they want to.
Would you, in terms of Reform, would you rather Keir Starmer stayed in his seat, or what happens if the likes of Wes Streeting took over? Would you be more concerned about him as a leader, as a threat?
We will take on anybody, because the fact is that, if whoever leads them, you've got Labour policies there in regard to immigration and the rest of it, which are very bad for Britain. And that is what we should be exposing and putting forward our own alternatives.
Yeah, well, I guess Labour would say, and they have said it, they want 2.5 million more migrants in the country. They say we need them to build our houses, to work in the NHS, to work in the care homes.
Yeah, but it becomes a circular argument, because the more that the population grows as a result of immigration, the more people you need to build houses, teach in schools, nurse in hospitals. I mean, anybody can work that out. A child of 5 can do that.
Yeah, agreed. OK, Anne Widdecombe, thank you very much. Thank you for your company. Appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you as well.
Merry Christmas.
Great stuff. Right, coming up, my panel will join me to discuss the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, and there are some absolute Bobby Belters on the front. Back in just a tick.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. As we go through the Christmas period, we'll see much milder weather affecting the UK. A lot of cloud around at times, giving outbreaks of rain, mainly towards the northwest, elsewhere largely dry. At the moment, we've got a chilly north to northwesterly airstream affecting the UK, tightly packed isobars, with low pressure anchored there towards the northeast of the UK. And as we head for the evening and through the overnight period, we hold on to brisk winds, a gusty north to northwesterly airstream feeding further showers in from the northwest. The showers are a little bit wintry at times across the high ground in Scotland, with the best of the clear spells developing towards the south and east of the UK. And wherever you are, quite a chilly night. Temperatures down into mid to low single figures, perhaps locally dipping down to around freezing, giving a patchy frost in places, and the odd icy patch towards the northeast of the UK as well. As for Monday, well, we start the day with further wintry showers towards the northeast. The showers mainly wintry on the high ground in Scotland. Elsewhere across the country, some sunshine, with rain approaching the west coast there first thing on Monday. Outbreaks of rain also reaching much of Northern Ireland, but notice temperatures here a little bit milder than of late. And 1 or 2 showers across Wales, the far southwest of England, but elsewhere across the south and east of the UK, it's a fine, fairly chilly start. Fairly clear skies too, with plenty of sunshine developing as we go through the morning. And we hold on to lots of sunshine across those southern and eastern spots through the day on Monday, with cloudier skies, outbreaks of rain working their way in across many northern and western areas. A few heavy bursts of rain across Northern Ireland during the morning, pushing in across Irish Sea areas into the afternoon. And it's only quite breezy once again after those winds have eased during the first part of Monday. Quite chilly towards the south and east at 5 or 6 degrees, but starting to turn milder out towards the west and northwest. As we head into Christmas Eve, and much milder days on the cards across the UK. A lot of cloud around, turning breezy at times. Some rain too, mainly towards the northwest, elsewhere mostly dry, some hill fog in places. But notice much milder temperatures than we've seen in recent days, temperatures into double figures. And we hold on to rather cloudy but very mild conditions going through the rest of the Christmas period, with temperatures up to around 12 or 13 degrees.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. The first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages have just dropped. We'll start with the Daily Express. The headline is Labour set to drive UK headlong into recession. Goodness me, I thought they were all about growth. The Independent. UK businesses brace for economic gloom. Fresh blow for Starmer as firms say they fear for growth in 2025. A picture of the young Andre Gleisner there, the 9-year-old killed in the German market attack on Friday. Thoughts with his family. The Eye, pension protest. PM faces biggest rebellion yet in New Year vote. The Daily Mirror, hoping for gift of life. A brave 3-year-old needs a double organ transplant to save him. And The Sun, Tyson Fury, it's not over. He was, he lost. I was about to say he was knocked out. He wasn't. He lost on points to Alexander Usyk last night, but apparently he is still going to be boxing in the near future.
I did watch that.
I missed it.
Oh,
I missed it. It was a good fight?
It was an amazing fight. Both those fights have been, if you're a fight fan, amazingly technical, quality of the boxing, absolutely first class.
I saw Volodymyr Zelensky took to Twitter this morning to take credit for Ukraine, saying it was another victory for Ukraine and all sorts.
Well, you could see Usyk has been carrying the weight of a nation on his shoulders, obviously inspired him through some of this stuff. But, yeah, great boxers, both of them.
Should we talk about the Daily Express front page and, indeed, actually, the Eye, the Independent, it's fairly similar. Labour set to drive UK headlong into recession. Paul Richards, Rachel Reeves said the word growth 39 times in the budget, and so far we've had no growth, rising inflation and concern from businesses who have been crippled with this national insurance hike.
Well, this is the CBI, which is the business lobbying organisation. It's their survey, so it's not a sort of proper economic forecast. It's a lobby group's survey of their members, and funnily enough, they're complaining about having a bit more tax. But I don't think there will be a recession, because I think once we get through Christmas, I think it will be clear that actually there'll be some growth in the economy because people are spending a bit more money going out and buying presents and feeling a bit better about life. So I don't think there'll be a recession. I think this is the CBI doing what lobby groups do, which is to capture a few headlines.
So, Paul, normally you put up a good defence. In this instance, I have to say the CBI is this country's most established voice of business and has the most amount of members and is actually...
But how many people did they survey, though?
There are tens of thousands of businesses are their members, and they would have responded.
Members, yeah.
But also, it's not about the CBI survey. Let's look at the facts. The increase on national insurance is a £25 billion tax on businesses, which means they won't employ people. They've told the CBI, and they're telling everyone who will listen, including the government, that they're not going to employ those businesses. They've also seen growth go down. They've seen inflation go up to 2.6%, and they've seen the Bank of England pull back from cutting interest rates. This is a Rachel Reeves constructed recession coming.
There isn't a recession. There isn't a recession. We're not in recession.
Yes. Let me get a word in edgeways. Paul, you might not accept the views of the businesses that actually make the growth that Rachel Reeves talks about in this country.
Those people.
When they say that it's a hostile climate for aspiration, investment and growth. You may, however, want to listen to the Deputy Chief Economist of the CBI, who said the UK economy is headed for the worst of all worlds. She's an actual economist, not Rachel from accounts.
I would push back on that because it's still the CBI, and I think once we get the planning law sorted out, once we get the building programme started, we saw loads of businesses over the summer.
You're not going to build 1.5 million.
We saw loads of businesses saying they're now going to be investing from abroad with our big investment summit.
Businesses don't want to invest because they can't afford the energy to run any factories, even if they could build them.
They are investing. There are millions of people coming in.
A letter supporting Labour are refusing to sign another letter.
But the actual
same businesses, because their businesses woken up.
And a third of them actively said they were lied to, misled, and regret signing their support.
And this is not think tanks; these are businesses.
But the actual investment summit, with real businesses putting their money on the table, have record numbers of investment coming in, and that's what we're going to see more of. Why didn't they say it under the Tories?
I grappled with you the other day about this. The fact is, this isn't my opinion or my conjecture. The fact is, Labour inherited the fastest growing economy in the G7, 0.7%, I think, in the first 6 months of this year. And for their whole shtick being growth, they have utterly failed. Will you say now, tonight, in the spirit of Christmas honesty, that Labour, thus far, have cocked up the economy?
No, I'm not going to say that Labour has cocked up the economy. Funnily enough, Ben, I mean, when we discussed it last time, you pointed out there was the fastest growth, but from an incredibly low base against a backdrop of all economies doing badly.
From that base is even worse.
And you have to judge this government not in 6 months, but in 3, 4, 5 years, because that's how growth will take.
That's how elections work.
Yeah, that's how elections work.
That's not how British people's lives work.
I think people will feel better in 4 years' time.
I think what we find is the economy works on a day-to-day, people running their businesses, seeing money coming in and money
we saw the Liz Truss budget and what that did to businesses and people's mortgages.
Let's talk about the government that are in charge for the last 5 months.
Well, that was your government, and the people kicked it out, didn't they?
That has seen a handbrake put on the growth, as Ben has quite rightly pointed out.
It's not a handbrake.
What we'll talk about in the next couple of weeks and months, you and I will discuss on this sofa.
Let's hope.
How we'll see, and it pains me to say this, look, I'm a British citizen that wants to see the British economy grow. I want to see money coming in so that...
We should vote Labour then, Clover, because that's the way to get it.
I wouldn't, because I knew, like Rishi Sunak did, what Labour would do, and they've done exactly what we thought they would do, and it's going to pan out that, unfortunately, for the British people, we will head into recession next year.
I don't think.
And I'm sorry to see that happen, and I hope we can do something, the businesses can do something to get us through.
Maybe that's when Starmer goes, or maybe that's when he gives Rachel Reeves.
I mean, I think
you wish, but he's not going anywhere. Come on.
That when Gordon Brown was Chancellor,
we had growth every single quarter.
Prudence. And he sold off the gold. He crashed the pensions market.
Growth in every single quarter under his chancellorship,
except for where he was following Tory spending plans. But on the other side of the equation, he was doing disastrous things to the long term.
And did the economy not grow every single month under Gordon Brown? Every single month.
Just because she says growth, we'll get it. It doesn't come out of magic thin air.
No, it comes through investment.
Businesses and hardworking
it comes through getting rid of these planning constraints. It gets
I love how you're pinning growth on building homes, which aren't,
it creates jobs. Creates jobs, people spend their money in the economy, and that's how you get growth in the economy,
Labour are saying that we need 2.5 million more migrants to come and build those homes. OK, so when they're here, where are they going to live? Who's going to build their homes?
Well, they're going to spend money and they're going to grow the economy, because that's how economies grow, isn't it?
Let's turn our attentions to something rather funny now. Boris Johnson's doing whatever he can to try and flog his book this Christmas and ended up in your stockings. Let's see what he's been up to this time.
Oh, there's no one so naughty they don't deserve a copy of Unleashed this Christmas. Is there, Dylan?
And then the answer, what do you make of that? Father Boris. Boris Claus.
Cringe. Just absolute toe-cunning cringe.
I can see Jacob doing something like that. He's a good laugh, Jacob.
He's a great laugh, but I've never seen him in fancy dress, thank God.
You never went to any fancy dress parties as youngsters or Halloween?
Not that I recall, no.
Paul Richards, what do you make of Boris? Have you bought his book?
I haven't, and neither has anybody else. I mean, the sales are absolutely appalling. It's selling even worse than my book.
Paul, which world do you... I've got 2 copies, so you said neither is there, and I'm here sitting here with 2 copies, so look, I know the book's been like going off the shelves like hotcakes. Everyone I know has read it, keeps telling me about it.
Well, you want to get out more.
Paul, I'll buy you a copy for Christmas.
Thank you. Yeah, lovely.
Colby, you were former advisor to Boris Johnson.
Yes.
Is he happy in his current capacity? Will there ever be a comeback for him politically?
I think Boris is always happy. He always manages to keep himself busy, and I think he's always open to opportunity. I think that Boris is always ready to do something.
When was the last time you spoke to him?
It was at the book launch, actually, about a month or two ago. We brought everybody who he mentioned in the book, he brought together, so there was loads of us there.
I wonder what he makes of Sue Gray getting a peerage.
Yes, I think the smile wasn't so wide on his face when he heard that news.
I bet. OK, back in just a tick. More of tomorrow's newspaper front pages coming up. This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest Winter Sun forecast. If you're travelling over the Christmas period, it's certainly going to remain unsettled for central parts of the Mediterranean. There's an area low pressure brings some strong winds, some heavy rain and also some snow to the higher levels. Something a little bit quieter for parts of Iberia, plenty of sunshine to be had here, but then down towards the Canaries, still the risk of some showers, although it will improve here as we approach Christmas Day itself. Temperatures in Madeira reaching around 20 degrees on Christmas Day.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Love a bit of baking and share some hot tips. We're delighted to be joined by our baking extraordinaire, Matty Edgell, who won Great British Bake Off last year. Woo! Welcome. Congratulations as well. I'm sure you're sick of being congratulated.
And there's a nice reminder.
No, you like all the glory.
Yeah.
What was it like winning the Great British Bake Off? What's the last year been like for you?
Winning it was I was not expecting to win. At any point until they said my name.
You're a very
so it was a
humble
nice
guy.
surprise. No, I was just
really?
in touch with reality. Yeah, no, I wasn't.
Was it quite a close race throughout then?
Yeah, I considered myself the underdog throughout. I think the first week I turned around after the showstopper and kind of saw how good everyone was, and then looked at mine and thought, how have I got here? And that kind of theme followed through.
But then that surely
like an underdog.
On.
Yeah,
it
did.
Actually, I'm going to get better throughout this.
Yeah, I think it made me kind of like really tune into the feedback that they was giving me and trying to embed that throughout. So that's probably why.
Could you feel yourself improving as the series went on?
Definitely, and I think also like kind of simultaneously my confidence improved at the same time, and then that like little bit of belief in myself probably helped out as well.
What was your strength? Biscuits, cake, bread?
I think cake's my strength.
Cake.
I think cake, typically if you start baking, that's probably where you start, isn't it? So that was what I knew most.
How did you start baking?
I've been asked this so many times since...
You don't know?
I attribute it to my nan.
Sweet.
But yeah, I would say, I think most people probably attribute it to like a grandparent or something that they maybe done with like their parents when they was growing up. So that's I'll give it to my nan.
Or the major lockdown baking boom.
Yeah, banana bread.
Everybody all over the place, isn't it? It's good.
Yeah, it's really good. I love a banana bread, even now.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Ben Leo tonight, only on GB News. More of the papers have just dropped, and I have to say it's another hat-trick of bad news for Labour. All of them. We'll start with the Daily Mail. Economy heading for worst of all worlds. Britain is facing a recession made in Downing Street next year. That's as business chiefs warn that Labour tax hikes are hitting jobs, investment and growth. Who'd have thought it? The Guardian, £100 million spent to thwart special needs claims in schools. And the Times economic outlook is frustrating, says Labour. Let's continue this chat, Paul Richards. What happens next year if and when we hit a recession with regards to Rachel Reeves? Is she on for the sack?
Absolutely not. And I think that...
Not?
Why do we think there's going to be a recession?
Well, because I say again, I remind you, and you know very well, that Labour... Their whole shtick in getting elected was growth, growth, growth.
Yeah, the whole perspective
and
is
if we
growth,
head into
absolutely.
a recession just 8 or 9 months later, I mean, that's a nightmare.
I don't think there will be a recession, because I think for the reasons I described. But
so you don't believe any of these front pages?
It's the CBI doing PR, which is fine. They're allowed to do that. But this is not sort of serious forecast. This is the CBI speaking on behalf of its lobby group and saying we don't like these taxes. And that's what they're for. But it's not. This is not like the Bank of England doing this. This is the CBI.
Paul, do you think the Bank of England or the government generates growth? Do you think that's where it comes from?
I think governments set a framework whereby businesses can create growth.
So the businesses are saying the framework will not allow for growth, that it is causing the worst of all worlds, as one of the quotes says.
It's only the press officer that's written that, though, isn't it? I mean, I think
they've surveyed thousands upon thousands of members. They do, actually.
Well, how many people have they surveyed in this?
It's not in the bits we've got, and we haven't had a chance to Google.
On a slow news day, and there you go.
Well, I think you just said the Bank of England, but the Bank of England was about to reduce interest rates because inflation had come down. Inflation has now gone up because we've seen an increase in national insurance for businesses, which means costs are going up and jobs are not going to
I think Rachel Reeves is doing a good job.
I'm sorry, you asked about the Bank of England. I'm telling you about the Bank of England. What the Bank of England is now saying, it's not cutting interest rates, where it's had actively signalled to the market it would do before the end of this year and into next year. So there's a direct relationship between what this government has done and what the Bank of England is now doing, which is not helping businesses and the British people with their mortgages.
I mean, it would be nice if they'd cut it, but I can see why they didn't. But, you know, they didn't put them up either.
Paul, you're a former Labour special advisor.
I am.
What would your special advice be now to Keir Starmer in Downing Street?
Stay on track, do the tough decisions now. They're not going to win a popularity contest, but they are going to lay the groundwork and get the things sorted out.
What does that mean? Sorry, Paul, no disrespect, but
for example, I'll give you an example.
Lay the groundwork and so on. What does that mean?
Well, it means, for example, raise money from the taxation that we saw, so we can then invest in the economy and in public services. So, for example, all that money we're putting into the health service, the increase in the national minimum wage,
that's not how you make
the railway franchises into the public sector. You know, there are things that the government has done which are going to have a big impact on people's lives in a positive way. More cops on the streets. So
None of this is for growth.
Disagree.
We're talking government spending.
Did we not just talk about the death of the high street an hour ago, right? If there's more cops on the streets, more people are coming back into our communities and spend money because they'll feel safer. So if you
I think we're
invest
actually
in the
saying more
fabric
people
of the
should be
nation,
kept in prison when they're a threat to our streets' safety. But
if you rebuild the fabric of the nation, people will spend more money.
As a force, generated growth in this country. What you need for that is entrepreneurs. You need investment. You need new opportunities.
I don't disagree with any of that. But if your story is being robbed by shoplifters, if your story is being robbed every day because there are no cops to arrest the shoplifters, right? You don't get entrepreneurs.
No, the government can
so that's
provide
out
the
of control,
safeguards
isn't it, under the Tories?
But what businesses are saying is that they're not.
So
and that is the problem.
OK, let's move on. A video has emerged tonight of Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, getting in the festive spirit, wearing a Christmas hat, dishing out some mince pies, but she's then approached by a concerned constituent about the way the government has been behaving. Take a look at this.
And give mince pies out to people. For what reason?
We do it every Christmas.
Right. Elderly
nice
as
to
well.
See you, all right?
Elderly people as well.
Hand out mince pies.
I think you should be warming them up and getting them.
No, never so.
No, I think you should warm them up, keep them warm at Christmas.
Well, would you like one?
No.
All right.
No, I hope you're not going to win next time. I hope you're out next time. I really do.
Everybody's got different views, haven't they? But it is Christmas time. It is Christmas.
It is, but all you're thinking now.
Well, would you like a thing it's got useful phone numbers and things on as well?
And I think, no, well, I'm still allowed to talk to you.
Of course you are.
You couldn't quite see Yvette Cooper's face there, but that was her. She was dishing out mince pies. Paul, what do you make of that? I'm undecided about... Yvette Cooper was saying, look, it's Christmas time. Just leave it off for a second. It's the fact that it's Christmas, does that make her immune from criticism or being answerable to the election?
No, not at all. But what disturbs me is I think there's a sort of open season on politicians. So many of them can't just walk down a high street now. They can't do something like this where they're handing out mince pies at Christmas, can't go shopping. You know, I know MPs who have police protection now because they're not free to walk down the street. And I think there is this danger that politicians of all stripes just can't go about their business because somehow it's OK to have a go in the street at a politician. And they get that behaviour from social media.
I absolutely think that politicians should be able to walk around freely no matter what party or none they are from.
That link to the constituency is vital, isn't it?
She was quite clearly handing out mince pies.
What's wrong with that?
In order to get people to like her. If it were in an election, it would be called treating the electorate.
Well, hang on, if she wasn't there, you'd be saying, where is she? You'd be saying, it's her constituency and she's doing a nice thing. It's a nice thing.
You should be allowed to talk politics when politicians are politicking.
I think Annuncia's right. Paul, you're right about politicians needing to feel safe and be safe.
Yeah.
But this is not a social media. Sounds like a rather older lady.
But why was it being filmed? Hang on, who was filming it then? It was a social media stunt, wasn't it? Why is this on the news?
Someone who wasn't very good at social media because they didn't get her face.
Because it didn't feel like good stuff. But I think the point here is that if you make decisions that people think are wrong, they will express their opinion. And if you're a politician, you should expect to get that opinion from people when you're in public wanting to engage with them.
Yeah. But she was giving out mince pies at Christmas and somebody's trying to break it up. I mean, that was not on.
If she wants to play, Father Christmas and hand out mince pies, that's up to Yvette Cooper. But the members of the public are well within their rights to speak to their politician and express their unhappiness with what they do.
And actually perfectly politely, from what
I think she was a constituent as well, so I think even more so. Time now for tonight's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. Annunciata, what's your Greatest Britain?
It's the royal family. On Wednesday, we will hear the King's speech. But I just think this has been a remarkable year for the whole family through huge personal challenges. They have shown stoicism and duty, but also, really importantly, been a point of constancy in a really very unpredictable year.
OK, good shout. Colville?
Very well said, Annunciata, but I'm going to become really focused on His Majesty the King. The King has done 186 public engagements this year, which has kept him in second place, only behind the Princess Royal at 217, despite the fact going through cancer treatment. He has kept his levels up of engaging and doing his royal duty, and for that, he's my greatest.
Paul, yours, please don't say Rachel Reeves.
I was terribly lucky last week to go and see Paul McCartney live, and he's my hero, absolutely brilliant. He did nearly 3 hours without a loo break. It was at the O2 in London.
Didn't Ringo Starr come on stage?
Ringo Starr, and he played all the songs. He could have done 5 hours.
Ronnie was there as well.
It was just, and he's 82. It was amazing. I needed a loo break, and he didn't, and he's 82. You know what I mean? And it was just a really special night. So Paul McCartney.
OK, nice. It's going to be the royal family, of course. Great shout. They've had a really challenging year, and as you said, it's just it's nice to see they're still there. And we've seen a more of a human side to them this year, knowing about their medical gripes and challenges, and it's great to see Catherine particularly back on the stage as well. So your Union Jackass, please.
I'm going to go for Peter Lord Mandelson, who has been nominated as our next ambassador to the US, having burnt lots of bridges with the Trump team. I found it very noticeable that straight after Trump won, he suddenly became quite, the American people have spoken, we should listen to them. He is an arch politician, but I don't know that he's got our country's interests. I think he's got his own interests.
Colville?
Now, I'd already decided this before I'd seen all the front pages, so it's Rachel Reeves because she is walking us into recession. And every newspaper from the Independent to the Daily Mail is saying that. So
Paul,
Well, this stuff about the royal family, I mean, Prince Andrew is dragging him through the mud, and it's a security risk, so Prince Andrew is my Union Jackass.
Oh, I'm split. Prince Andrew or Rachel Reeves? Well, can we have two winners? No, I have to pick one, don't I? It's got to be Rachel Reeves. This is going to affect the lives and the wallets and the quality of life for millions of people all up and down the UK. And when for people who said that it's going to be growth, and it's going to be much better for your bank account and whatever, we haven't seen much of that at all. Panel, thank you very much.
Nice to see you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to all the viewers.
Indeed. Merry Christmas to all our viewers at home. Up next, it's Headliners presented by another Leo Curse. What's in store, Leo?
Hi Ben, great show. Tonight we've got Germans who've been protesting against the ongoing attacks. They keep suffering. They finally had enough, so they've been out in the streets and they've been called far right. And interestingly, the attacker was called far right as well. It seems like far right doesn't really mean much anymore. We've also got Britain heading for recession. We've got how wrestling won the election for Donald Trump. And what's next for Tyson Fury? I should imagine some more boxing after Christmas. So that's all coming up in Headliners.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's the far right are protesting, the far right are killing us. You know, it's the far right are everywhere. Who knows? Merry Christmas to you all at home. Have a happy New Year. Thank you for all your support, your comments, your viewership this year. I'll see you after Christmas. Have a good one. Good night.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. As we go through the Christmas period, we'll see much milder weather affecting the UK. A lot of cloud around at times, giving outbreaks of rain, mainly towards the northwest, elsewhere largely dry. At the moment, we've got a chilly north to northwesterly airstream affecting the UK, tightly packed isobars, with low pressure anchored there towards the northeast of the UK. And as we head for the evening and through the overnight period, we hold on to brisk winds, a gusty north to northwesterly airstream feeding further showers in from the northwest. The showers are a little bit wintry at times across the high ground in Scotland, with the best of the clear spells developing towards the south and east of the UK. And wherever you are, quite a chilly night. Temperatures down into mid to low single figures, perhaps locally dipping down to around freezing, giving a patchy frost in places, and the odd icy patch towards the northeast of the UK as well. As for Monday, well, we start the day with further wintry showers towards the northeast. The showers mainly wintry on the high ground in Scotland. Elsewhere across the country, some sunshine, with rain approaching the west coast there first thing on Monday. Outbreaks of rain also reaching much of Northern Ireland, but notice temperatures here a little bit milder than of late. And one or two showers across Wales, the far southwest of England, but elsewhere across the south and east of the UK, it's a fine, fairly chilly start. Fairly clear skies too, with plenty of sunshine developing as we go through the morning. And we hold on to lots of sunshine across those southern and eastern spots through the day on Monday, with cloudier skies, outbreaks of rain working their way in across many northern and western areas. A few heavy bursts of rain across Northern Ireland during the morning, pushing in across Irish Sea areas into the afternoon. And only quite breezy once again after those winds have eased during the first part of Monday. Quite chilly towards the south and east at 5 or 6 degrees, but starting to turn milder out towards the west and northwest. As we head into Christmas Eve, and much milder days on the cards across the UK. A lot of cloud around, turning breezy at times. Some rain too, mainly towards the northwest, elsewhere mostly dry. Some hill fog in places, but notice much milder temperatures than we've seen in recent days. Temperatures into double figures, and we hold on to rather cloudy but very mild conditions going through the rest of the Christmas period, with temperatures up to around 12 or 13 degrees.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine getting a call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God. This is amazing.
I'm in shock.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
1 in 20 people are diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder across the UK.
Yes, Health Watch has revealed that men
are more likely to suffer from this than women. Did you know?
Triggers apparently include a decrease in daylight hours, which is certainly happening around about now. If you're leaving the office, it's dark. When you come home, it's dark, as well as the falling temperatures.
Yes, and both of those things happen a lot, don't they, here in Britain? So how can we combat the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder? Well, to discuss this, we're joined now by Dr. Andreas Fonseca, the founder and director of Thrive Mental Wellbeing. Really good to see you this morning, Doctor. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Now, there'll be lots of people watching and listening this morning and saying, what a load of rubbish. It's always been cold in this country. It's always been dark. What is seasonal affective disorder? Is it really a thing?
Well, it is a thing, and it's been known for quite some time. This is not new, really. It is a form of depression. That's what it is. And it's got specific characteristics that kind of differentiate it from other forms of depression. So the reason probably we're talking more about it is because it's basically people are more aware of it and they're recognizing it more. So before you used to be sort of just saying this person's got depression, now you have some specific things to look at that can differentiate it from other kinds of depression, which is quite useful because it's got some specific forms of treatment. So